In this video, we're going to look at multiplying large numbers. Now, I've recommended that you really learn your times tables, at least up to 12. So for anything up to 12 multiplied by 12, you should know that off the top of your head. But for larger numbers, we're going to need a method that we can use. The method we're going to look at in this video is called long multiplication. It's not the only method out there for multiplying large numbers. There's also something called the grid method, and there's also something called a lattice method, and they're both excellent methods. I am just covering long multiplication here because it is the most popular. Let's go straight to the first example. Here's the first example. We want to do 2 multiplied by 14. What we can do is set this out as follows. 14 multiplied by 2. So just like we do with column addition or column subtraction, line up the place value columns, but this time we are multiplying. And we simply multiply each place value column of the 14 by the 2. So 2 multiplied by 4 is 8, 2 multiplied by 1 is 2. So 2 multiplied by 14 is 28. Now here's an example for you to try. Pause the video and have a go. Here's the answer. We write out 132. We're multiplying that by 3, and I've got them in place value columns lined up. So 3 units is under the 2 units of the 132. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6, 3 multiplied by 3 is 9, and 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. So we've got 3 lots of 2 units, which is 6 units, 3 lots of 3 tens, which is 9 tens, and 3 lots of 100, which is 300. So 3 multiplied by 132 is 396. Here's the next example. This one's a little bit trickier, as we will see. 5 multiplied by 17, I will set out like this. By the way, remember that multiplication is commutative, and that means that the order of multiplication doesn't matter. So even if this said 17 multiplied by 5, I would set this out exactly the same way. I'd put the smaller number underneath and the larger number on top. So 17 multiplied by 5 or 5 multiplied by 17 are the same thing. Let's start. 5 multiplied by 7. So we've got 5 lots of 7 units. That is 35 units. And we can't put 35 into a single place value column. So what we do is we write 5 units in there, and the remaining 30 units we're going to exchange for 3 tens. And I'm going to pop the 3 down here. Next we need to have 5 lots of 110. So 5 multiplied by 1 is 5. That gives me 5 tens. But remember, I also had 3 tens from earlier on that I exchanged from the 35 units. So I've got to add that on. So let's do that again. 5 multiplied by 1 is 5. Add on these 3 tens, and that gives me 8 tens altogether. So 5 multiplied by 17 is 85. Here's an example for you to have a go at for yourself. 6 multiplied by 14. Pause the video and have a go at that one. Here's how we do that then. We've got 14 multiplied by 6 like that. 6 multiplied by 4 is 24. So 4 units go there, and we exchange the 20 units for 2 tens. 6 multiplied by 1 gives me 6. Now remember that 1 is in the tens column, so that's 6 tens. And I add on the 2 tens that I've got from earlier on. That gives me 8 tens. So 6 multiplied by 14 is 84. Next, let's have a look at 6 multiplied by 283. Place value columns lined up. 6 multiplied by 3 is 18. We put the 8 there, exchange 10 of those units for 110. So that's what we've got so far. Next we do 6 lots of 8 tens. That gives me 48 tens plus this extra 1. So that gives me 49 tens. We put 9 tens in there, and we exchange 40 tens for 400s. And I'll put the 4 there. 6 multiplied by 2 now is 12. So that gives me 12 hundreds. And we've got these 4 hundreds from before. So that's 16 hundreds. And what we can do is put 6 in the hundreds column and exchange the other 10 hundreds for 1,000. So 16 hundreds is really 6 hundreds and 1,000. So the answer is 1,698. Let's just recap what's going on here again. 6 multiplied by 3 was 18, 8. So the 8 goes there and the 1 goes underneath. Then we do 6 multiplied by 8, which is 48. We add on this 1 to get 49. So the 9 goes there and the 4 goes underneath here. Then we did 6 multiplied by 2, which is 12. We add on the 4 to get 16, which effectively ends up over here. Now we're looking at multiplying a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number. 67 multiplied by 21. Now, what we're going to do first is ignore the 2 tens and just treat it like 1 multiplied by 67. So 1 lot of 7 is 7, 1 lot of 6 is 6. And what we've done so far is work out simply what I've said. This is just 1 lot of 67, or 1 multiplied by 67. Now in a new row just underneath, we're going to work out what 20 lots of 67 is. Remember, the value of that 2 is 20. It's 2 in the tens column. Now, because that's in the tens column, what we're going to do is put a 0 in here. And then we're going to do 2 multiplied by 7, which is 14. So we put a 4 there and keep a 1 underneath. And then we do 2 multiplied by 6, which is 12. And then we need to remember to add on this 1, like we've seen in previous examples. So we get this number here. Now, what have we actually worked out? This number here is 20 lots of 67. So remember what we did. When we started multiplying the 67 by this 2, what we were effectively doing was multiplying by 20, which is why we put the 0 on the end there and then did 2 lots of 7 to get 14, 1, 4. 2 lots of 6 to get 12, which we had to add on this 1 to get 13. So 67 multiplied by 21 gives us 1 lot of 67 and 20 lots of 67. What we want is 21 lots of 67, which means we need to add these 2 together now. So we don't need this 1 here anymore, so ignore that. We've taken that into account by doing 2 times 6, or 2 multiplied by 6, which is 12, and adding the 1 in to make 13. We don't need the 1 anymore. Just add these down. 7 add 0 is 7. 6 add 4 is 10. So we get 0 there, 1 over there. 1 add 3 is 4. Nothing add 1 is 1. So we get an answer of 1,407. Let's take a look at the final example then. We've got 126 multiplied by 34. And we're going to do the same kind of thing. What we're going to end up with is 2 rows of working. The first row will give us 4 lots of 126. So that's 4 multiplied by 126. And the second row will give us 30 lots of 126. And once I've got those, I can add them up to simply give me 34 lots of 126. So 4 multiplied by 6 is 24. So that's 4. I'll have a little 2 down here. 4 multiplied by 2 is 8. Add 2 is 10. So that's 0, and I'll have a little 1 down here. 4 multiplied by 1 is 4. Add this 1 gives me 5. So 4 lots of 126 is 504. We can ignore these little numbers 1 and 2 now. We've dealt with them. Let's focus on 3 lots of 126. But remember, the 3 really represents 30. So we can put a 0 in here and now proceed. 3 multiplied by 6 is 18. So we put an 8 there and a little 1 down here. 3 multiplied by 2 is 6. Add on this 1, that gives us 7. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. So this number here is actually 30 lots of 126. Now we can add 4 plus 0 is 4, 0 plus 8 is 8, 5 plus 7 is 12, 1 plus 3 is 4. So remember, we could ignore these numbers in here, which were part of the multiplication. They're no longer part of the addition. So 504 plus 3,780 gives us 4,284, and that is 34 lots of 126, which is the question. So 4284. 126 times 34 is 4,284.